Well, hello, everybody. This is Patty with Get Balanced 2020. And if you don't know what Get Balanced 2020 is, thank you for showing up and thank you for at least giving us a try. Please just keep the video going for a few minutes so I can explain what it is before you click off. But Get Balanced 2020 is a program or series of videos that I put together for free. And what it is, it's about how to place your mind, spirit, and body together. How to, our mind is basically our thought process. Our spirit is about our internal self and our being, our subconscious. Actually, our mind is our conscious. Spirit and body, which is about nutrition and fitness. And we put them all together to get a balanced lifestyle. Now we transform to a positive, successful lifestyle for whatever that is for you. And it could be money, it could be family, it could be all kinds of things. It could be spirituality. Now, when we talk about spirituality, I'm not talking about religion, so I don't go there. That's whatever your belief is. That's okay. But we do talk about the spirit itself because we all have one, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. So today we're talking about spirit, and I'm going to actually be doing a two-part series. So the two-part series is going to be on soulmates. So this is a good topic. Everybody wants to know about relationships. Everybody wants to know how to find the right one, the soulmate. And is it really a soulmate? Do some people believe in soulmates? Some people do not. And so we'll discuss that. We'll discuss about spirit and our singleness. And what that's all about, good and bad, and why it is good and not bad. It's not bad at all, actually. And then how to actually work in a dating aspect as far as our spirit and our soul, and actually how to find the person that really is for your purpose. And we're going to discuss what that purpose is. And you're going to be a little disappointed, but you're actually going to be excited because then now you have the tools to go and find the person that you were meant to have, not the ones that you've sort of left behind, or I did wrong on that one, or I was going to say a bad word, sorry. That kind of thing. So that's what we're going to discuss today. So it might get a little serious, but it might try to twist some fun in there. So let's get started. First off, before I do that, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Because this helps grow, and it also helps reach other people that may need a video like this. Maybe parts will resonate with you, maybe they won't. That is fine, but something somewhere out there, somebody really needs this. So please subscribe. If you even think of first person that comes to your mind, they probably need that. So please subscribe. And if you're watching on Facebook, please like and share, because that's the only way we can get out to more people as well. Done with the housekeeping. Let's go, because I get excited about this. Now, where I'm going to start from, and I don't want everybody to come at me, because I am single at this time by choice. This is my choice. And there's reasons why you'll see that down the road. But single is being okay. Single is actually a good thing for many reasons. But when we are in a single place, we have to look and evaluate our lives. And then we talk about that in the mind portion, about how to start thinking about ourselves and how to be on a positive track, and how to be more mindful on the things that we're choosing in our head and our brain and that kind of things. And that comes from your subconscious, which goes to your conscious. Now, when we're talking about relationships and spirit, we all start our relationships, whether we want to admit it or not, from our heart, our spirit, what is deep within. Because our divine has actually created somebody out there. There's many people out there, and we will have maybe soul ties, and then we'll have soul mates. Now, what is really a soulmate? And we'll get into that in a minute. But being single has good aspects for many things. So if you're going through a divorce, if you have broken up with a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, it is a grieving process. This is a grieving process because something happened in the relationship that made it fall apart, dissipate, whatever you want to call it, crumble, that kind of thing. But we got to remember that when that happens, to not beat ourselves up about, well, and point fingers. They did this, they did that kind of thing. That's a time to look and reflect on yourself. And the only time that you really can do that is when you're single. And in spirit, it's also a good thing to be single and do that, because being single gives you time to focus on self, on your spirit, on your what you want, what your goals are, where you want to be in life, who you want to be with next, who you don't want to be with next, but those kind of things. So it is really important, because you have, as a single person, more time to spend, if you choose, with your creator, the divine God, whoever that is, the universe, whatever that is for you. It gives you more time to focus, educate yourself, research, learn, dig deep within, and maybe do some internal child work. And that's about mind and spirit together kind of thing. But those are things that it's okay to be single. I hear a lot of people get depressed. Well, I'm lonely. The reason why we're lonely is because we are not seeing ourselves. We are not seeing what we are to ourselves. So sometimes we get lonely only because on this earth we are meant to be in types of relationships, whether it's friendships, acquaintances, co-workers, whatever. We are meant as human beings to have relationships with people. It doesn't mean a love relationship, it just means a relationship. So when you're lonely, you have to ask yourself, am I lonely because I need company? Or am I lonely just because I don't want to look deep inside and find out who I am, because I just might like me and like to spend time by myself with me? So those are the things that you want to ask in your singleness. And that's okay to do. In fact, there should be more time spent in singleness, especially with these younger generations. And even at my age, it's really interesting to see that people want to jump right into a relationship, right into bed, and not even really know the person. And we're going to talk about soul ties here in a little bit. And that's another thing that you have to think about, because when we do that and jump in and don't even know that person, then we actually are opening up our heart, our spirit, to possibly get hurt, because we have expectations that we may not even know that person can't or won't live up to them, only because that's who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when you're single, it's great. Now, if you've been through a relationship, divorce, through a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, maybe even abuse, that kind of thing, something that brought you to that point, then when you get out into another relationship again, a soulmate relationship, then basically what you need to do is two things. Guard your heart, which means put a gate on it. Because number one thing that we say, if for people who believe in God and Jesus, is we say that that's what the devil wants right out of the chute. They don't care about anything else, but they go straight for that heart. And like Cupid goes straight for the heart. So does Satan, or so does evil, and so does fear, so does doubt. Everything goes for the heart that is destructive, but also the love and all the great things that can go on with the relationship, they also go for the heart. So years ago, I used to say, I don't trust anybody, right? And so when you do that, and I started dating, they say, wow, you just have a wall up. You have a huge wall up. I'm like, yeah, maybe I do. Because right there and then I hadn't done my own self homework. I didn't get self-aware. I didn't know who I was. The only thing I knew is people hurt me. Well, the biggest thing that happens in relationships are two things. Either they're the best and the most elated thing, like having a baby, a birth, and then there's the worst of it. There could be a death of that child. So there's always the best and the worst in relationships, where we come in between. That has to be, we have to own that, and we have to understand that. So when somebody hurts us and you put a wall up, you don't give a new person a chance to come in. What you need to do, or what is more wise to do, I should say, because I can't tell you what to do. It's up to you what you do. But the thing is, put a gate on it. Put a gate rather than, or if you want to put the wall up, but make sure there's a gate there in the middle. Because the thing is, if you put a wall up, there's no chance for anybody ever to get in there. And so when you meet your soulmate, you've already cut that soulmate right off, and they're just going to take off and go somewhere else. And if you have a gate, that is where you allow to open and close it and allow certain people to come in. You can do that by learning and being aware of who you are when you're single. And that is what I'm talking about as far as singleness. Because once we get into a relationship, it's no longer us. It's no longer just me. It's a whole gamut of other things of sacrifice and compromise and, sharing and give and take and all that kind of stuff, right? So basically, at the singleness, this is what we want to do. So when we're talking about self-awareness, I'm going to sort of jump ahead a little bit because this, like I said, it's a two-part series. So when you aren't aware of yourself, so you don't even know what you need. So if you don't even get to the spirit of yourself, and as we talked in the series in April, the 4-week series of how to get to the root of how you think, the way you think, and the thought processes of why you think the way that you do, that's the same with your spirit, because those thought processes come from your soul. Now everybody's like, well, wait a minute, I thought spirit and the soul were the same thing. They're not. So the spirit actually is given to you from the divine. Like most faiths, they believe that the spirit lives within us. They are actually in us. Like in Christianity, God is given us everything that we need. He's made us in his likeness, and he lives within us. We don't have to look up to the sky to him. I mean, we can look up to the heavens because that's where the universe where he resides. Way out there that we'll probably never be able to touch or see it until we pass on. But the thing is that is the spirit. And that's also where your subconscious begins to get fed, because the spirit either works in love or fear. And then that teaches us our soul of what we are. And then our soul also is from the circumstances around us, our thought process, our cognitive. So our subconscious talks to our conscious, and then we talk and make choices and decisions and everything based on that. So you sort of have to look at the spirit as the translator to what we really know, what is right, what is wrong. Well, it's like when we have our intuition, we know that in our gut that's really right, and then we go against it and we're like, we should have listened to our gut, right? So that is your spirit speaking to your soul, telling you to do something, and each time you do it incorrectly or away from what the spirit's guiding you to, then we become into our conscious mind, and then we talk about our body. Does that make sense? Spirit is sort of like the translator to the soul. The soul is the translator to the mind, and the mind reflects whatever the soul tells it to do. That's where people go wrong, is their soul doesn't tie to their spirit. Because we're human. We want to make our own choices. I know how to do it better than the divine. I know how to do better than anybody else. So I'm going to do it. And then you're like, oh, crap, I shouldn't have done that, right? Oh, man, I really blew that one. Well, that's because we didn't want to listen to the spirit. So this is when in singleness, we want to be able to sit. If you meditate, if you pray, if you just sit in your car with your eyes closed, and if you sit there and... Sorry, I got my phone on. If you sit there and just quietly listen, because the spirit is in there and they're waiting to talk to you, but are you willing to listen? So these are the things where wisdom comes from. Old wisdom, if you believe in reincarnation, that's where that comes from. Your spirit, from your past ties of your lives that you used to live, if you believe in that. So that is what you need to get to in your singleness, because the number one thing is that you have to need to know what you want and what you don't want, and if that other person can meet the needs of what you want. That's a huge, huge homework, people, really. It took me years to get to that point. I don't want you to get to years. I want you to just be able to sit down, get your homework done, figure it out, move on so that you can meet that person. But when you meet a soulmate, you do not manipulate it. You do not try to go out and find it. And I know everybody's like, well, I'm on this dating site and I'm looking, oh, I've met these people. And, oh, well, there's maybe I'll go to the grocery store and bump into somebody. You're manipulating it. And we'll get to that here in a minute. That is not a soulmate. Boop, not a soulmate. Okay, so what we're going to do is now next, we are talking about getting in yourself and understanding what spirit really is. So you want to get a piece of paper and pencil, because here I couldn't even sit there and write this down. I mean, memorize it, because there is so a lot. And that's why I wanted to do a 2-part series on this, because there is so much. And I only want to do them for about a half an hour so you don't get bored and shut me off. All right. So on spirit, what is spirit? Well, we know that spirit's individual. We know it lives within us. And what is this pertain to finding a soulmate? It's going to connect. The dots will connect. Pay attention. So you got to look at the spirit is our mind, because our thoughts come from the soul. So it's part of our spirit. It is our emotions. Now, when you talk about, well, I believe in the universe, great. The universe doesn't care about your emotion. Well, it does care about it because it goes on vibrations, frequencies, that kind of thing. But it really doesn't care about you personally, as far as what your desires, your dreams and goals and everything like that are. It doesn't. And it's our will, our decision making, our choices, and it is our affection and our imagination. That is where our spirit. So our spirit has imagination, affection, it has a will, it has a desire, it has everything geared into it. So that's a lot for something to have and try to educate and teach us through it. We just have to be able to listen. And you're like, oh, I never hear anything. I never do anything. You do, because you get aha moments through your intuition, or like, wow, that was a coincidence, or things like that. So think about that. All right. So, okay, so let's go into let's go into what really it takes for what really a soulmate is. So when we use the soulmate, and I just sort of don't like that word, but it's very popular and everybody can understand it. Sort of, do they? So do you really know what soulmate means to you? What is that to you? And you should jot that down on your piece of paper. What is a soulmate to you? Because I'll guarantee it, what I'm going to tell you, it's probably not. Okay. So really, we're looking at when we were created to be with someone. Now, I know there's a lot of different people out there that believe in same sex and trans and all that kind of stuff. And I'm talking about heterosexual at this time. And I'm talking about we were meant, man and woman, for each other to be fruitful and multiply. Put it that way. So, and that's the way that can be done. That's the only way that can be done, till science does it in a petri dish, God forbid. But, which they're already doing sort of that anyway. But so the thing is that's what we were guided and meant to do, is to be able to be fruitful and multiply. So when we want to meet somebody, it actually needs to be divine ordained. Like I was telling you, we do not want to press something. We don't want to search out something, because at that point we are not meeting our soul's purpose. And here's why. Because the divine doesn't send us a company. They don't care about us as far as needing company, a one night stand and a hookup and all that kind of stuff. In fact, that's a soul tie that we'll talk about in a little bit, and that can be really detrimental to a lot of things as far as your future, about your self-esteem. It's really not wise to do if you're looking for a soulmate, because a soulmate actually is someone, or we'll say, I like to say it's a mate for my soul, because it's not one to keep me just company. It's not one to complete me, not one of those things. What a mate for my soul is brought to me for a need and a purpose for what my future is. And my purpose and me being a mate for somebody else's soul is not just for company, it's to fulfill their needs. So and you're like, well, what does that mean? I don't get that. Okay, let me give you an example. So if we're weak in one part of our life, but this other person is strong, let's say finances, like I like to spend it. I like to go shopping. I like to, I don't have a nickel in my pocket most of the time, whereas this person is a saver and they save and they have established, then those two meet together and you have a great marriage and a unity because it works together. And maybe that person, you're saying, well, yeah, that person spends all my money. And then I'm like, no, but the other, what is that? There's something is missing or we're weak in. Everybody has a weakness and a strength, and whatever, maybe this person's financially great, but maybe that person is weak in how to express their emotions, and that person loves to express emotions and love, and maybe that's what that person needs, and again, a good marriage. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what we call it, and that's what I'm going to call it, is a mate for your soul. Because in all reality, we could have several soulmates out there, but in all reality, the divine has created one special person that actually will put our needs together. Now, here's the other thing. When we are put together and united as one, basically as a couple relationship, dating, whatever you want to call it, we would call it as one because you're now a union of whatever form. Then we are there to not for ourselves, but to be two separate individuals with two separate purposes to actually go out and do what our calling has asked us to do. Okay? So even though we're going out separately, we still are meant to be together emotionally, spiritually, mentally. It all just depends on what your needs are. And that's why being single, you need to find out what those needs are and what you need in your life. So I know my needs, and I'm not talking crazy. I literally had to really search deep down what I need for me. And as I grew and my self-esteem grew and my confidence grew, I can tell somebody, no, I just don't think we'll be a good fit. And the reason I can do that is because I know that they're not my soulmate. And we'll talk about those things probably in number 2, because you need to know what you're looking for to be able to meet that soulmate, know that soulmate when you meet them. And maybe that soulmate isn't ready at that point. But most of the time, when God brings you guys together, then it is time to meet. He's got a purpose and a goal for you now to meet. Otherwise, you won't meet yet. And that happens. Or sometimes our head gets in the way and we've met that soulmate and we've messed it up. I was going to use the F word, but I better not. We've messed it up. That soulmate went on to be with somebody else that they really weren't meant to be with. And their life has moved on and you have missed your boat. Now, does that mean you've missed it for your lifetime? No, because as I said before, we do have other soul ties and soul mates. But the one that God wants us to, he will bring you together. Does that make sense? So that's number 2, is you need to know what your needs are, so that when you meet that person, you can specifically see if that person is going to meet those needs. And if they aren't, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about spiritual needs, emotional needs, your desired needs, those kind of things. And if they don't meet it, be polite, be nice. Don't freaking ghost them. Oh my gosh, I would just love to reach through and strangle these people that ghost. How disrespectful, how rude, how immature to sit there and ghost somebody. Oh, Lord Jesus. Seriously, just be polite and say, hey, you know what? I think we'd make good friends, which everybody hates to hear. But I'd rather hear that than have somebody ghost me or lead me on, or what do they call that? There's a name for it. And it's just like, it's like dangling you with a worm all the way when they got something else going on over here. I'm sure you guys will know it out there. So that's the number 2. So another thing is that I'm going to go back a little bit. So what we need to do is we need to understand that it's sort of like we're on an assignment for God or your creator. This life really isn't for us to just end with us. That's not what we're here for. So we are like on an assignment. So when we come together, whatever that person's assignment is and my assignment is, or whoever it is, then basically you come together and complete that assignment, not knowingly even that you're doing it most of the time, which is really, really cool. It's like, oh, wow, that turned out really, really great. Really, really cool. So the one thing that we do want to concentrate on when we're single, when we're beginning to look, or we're in a dating, early dating situation, is that we need to be mindful of our affections and how affections are displayed or accepted. Because as we know, if you believe in love and fear, if you believe in God and Satan, evil, good, bad, evil, that kind of thing, we know yin yang. We know that there is a negative force out there that will actually try to distract you off your course and will try to mess it all up for you. And if you don't know yourself or your awareness enough, sorry, it's getting hot in here. It's starting to get warm over here in Oregon. If you don't know yourself well enough, it will be easily teased and tempted to go off track. So that is why I say it's okay to finally know yourself and say, hey, you know what? You're not 6'2". I don't like you. I'm just joking. That's not what you would do. I'm just saying that if the person maybe has 3-4 kids and you're at an age where and they're young and you just don't want children anymore and you just don't want to raise children anymore, then that is something that you don't need in your life. You might like that person and person might be a great friend at some point in time, but that you've identified your need. I don't want children. So that might be a need, for an example. So you want to make sure that we keep our attention and focus on the goal of what we want to do or how we want the story to end, because you are going to get distractions all over the place. And the thing is that you will be on a switchback, because the closer you get to that soulmate, the more that you're going to get attacked. Because the thing is, when two people come together, as we know, when you get married, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of energies, the vibrations are extremely high, and the negative and the dark forces don't want that. Of course they don't, because you know what, they want you, kind of a thing. So if you believe in that. So, and the thing is too, that you have to understand that when you're looking, you have to have the intent to know what you want. If you're not ready to date, don't. If you're not ready to get into a serious relationship, don't. But don't have the intent and tell someone that you're going to do that and then don't. Because here's the thing, and the number, this could be number 3 if you want to write it down. Time. Time is the most precious commodity on this big ball called Earth. Time is something that you cannot get back. The 2 seconds I just spoke, I'll never get those back. I'll never get time back. And that is so key important to not only finding someone, but not wasting someone's time so that they might be able to run into their soulmate. And taking time away. We talk about in one of the videos about making memories, because when you make memories, it's all about the time spent, because as we say, when we leave this earth, we don't want to leave by saying that, oh, I'm glad that, I knew Patty. She was great at work. She was a workaholic. We don't want somebody thinking that way. We want to say, I remember the time, oh my gosh, that was so fun, or that was so funny. That's what we want to do. So don't waste any time. There's never really wasting time, but don't take unnecessary time and put it where it's not productive or needed when you're working on yourself and your soulmate. Okay? So that's number 1. Time is so precious. I had a whole video on that because I learned this early, and there's a story in there, and it woke me up. And I'm telling you, every freaking moment is so precious that you want to fill it up with everything that's joyful, happy, high vibration, and just keep all that other stuff down, because at the end of the day, don't sweat the small stuff, as they say. I was just telling my daughter and a friend, elders, we look at elders and they're like, oh yeah, they're old. Yeah, they know a lot of stuff. But how many times did our elders tell us, oh, don't sweat the small stuff, honey. Oh, don't worry about that. That's really not important. When you get older, you'll see it. And how right they really are. Now that I'm older, how right they really, really are, because those little things do not matter. Especially now we're going through this coronavirus thing. We're realizing as a human being what is really, really important to us. What is really important to us. So, okay, so that's what we're going to talk about on those. So the other thing is, when we go, we want to go looking, but we really aren't supposed to. Does that make sense? So how do you say, I can't remember the old saying, is that, and you guys will probably repeat it for me, is that when you least expect it. And that's basically the way a soul person in your life or soulmate is supposed to be. So when you least expect it, they're going to come out of the blue. So, and the reason why they're going to come out of the blue or not expected, or maybe they've been in your life and they've been a friend all your life and you just didn't really connect until all of a sudden one day there was an aha moment. Well, that's the divine moment connecting. So what that is basically putting you two together as a God or whatever you believe in is ordained by divine. So that is what is soulmate. You can't go looking and searching, and because most of the time when you find that person that you least expect, what happens is we talked about this on another video, is you've got this list of what you want them to look like, what you want them to do, smell like, feel like, all that kind of stuff. And 99% of the time, they're not that at all, because you've been watching too many movies. But no, in all reality, most of the time they are not what you expect them to be. So maybe I'm dreaming of somebody 6'3", 6'4", green eyes, nice bodybuilder build and all that kind of stuff. And here comes along somebody who's 5'9", 5'10". They're a little bit, pudgy. But you know what? The thing that we look at, and the next thing I'm going to talk about, is that person is not for your company It's for your need and purpose for your assignment. And the purpose is that they will meet your needs and you will meet their needs. And you know what? Before you know it, you'll be actually, they do this in other countries. America's a little different, but in Eastern countries and in Asian countries, they actually fall in love because they're not falling in love with the exterior like a lot of us do. Now, don't get me wrong. Physical attributes are really important to us. Everybody is visual. But once you sort of peel off that visual layer, what are you looking at? You're looking at their heart. You're looking at their character, you're looking at their identity, what their values are, what their morals are. And you know what? If we were to put the same person in a line, put a bag over their head, but they look all the same, you would not even think. You'd go, okay, well, I got this, but now I need more information. So what information are you going to go for? You can't go for somebody who looks all the same. So what are you going to go for? So you want to make sure that somebody is going to meet the needs of everything that you value, your integrity. So if you want honesty, you're going to have to seek somebody who has good integrity. Does that make sense? So those kind of things. Again, we're going back to singlehood and trying to find out the needs, right? So in that sense, that's what we're going to do is we're going to look for that person to meet our needs and then also to look for the inner beauty. The inner beauty, and I'm going to tell you, as I got older and when I was bodybuilding, yeah, oh my gosh, there was hot bodies all over the place. And let me tell you, there's lots of things I could tell you that I couldn't tell you on here. But the thing is that beauty was actually skin deep, as they say. It really wasn't. When you looked at a lot of them, they were actually very insecure, very shy. Actually, their heart was very broken in a lot of places. But the thing is, you want to get down to the heart because sometimes this body will go. You know, what happens if you fall in love with somebody who's really good looking and unfortunately, and I would never want this on anybody, but maybe gets in a fire and they get discolored or their skin isn't looking the same, or maybe they lose a limb, or maybe they can't walk, or they get a disease. These are things that you have to really consider because when you find a soulmate, that person isn't just for like a hookup. It isn't for a one night stand. It isn't for all that kind of stuff. It's just for the rest of your life. And that's a joyful thing. It's not something like a burden, like, oh crap, I've got a ball and chain over here. And then, no, this is like a soulmate, a mate for your soul is to be for the rest of your life. And you can't wait to be with that person. You can't wait to talk to that person. You miss that person when they leave. Right when they walk out the door, you're missing them. You're excited to share with them, to cry with them, to just vent with them, and they're there for you in those manners. And that's a soulmate. And another thing a soulmate is, and we'll talk about the criteria later. That'll be a number 2 of what a soulmate is. But the thing is, a soulmate is a person, and this is for a lot of broken friendships, relationships, or what, mostly relationships, is that a lot of the times when you have to walk on eggshells, I just posted this on my Facebook on a little blurb, is that if you have to walk on eggshells or tiptoe because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or they're going to get mad and you know you got to say you're sorry or you're just tiptoeing and you're just, is this okay? You can't be yourself. So right there, you know that's not a soulmate because your soulmate will allow you to be whoever you want to be because that's who they were attracted to. If you're not being fake it until you make it, then you are being walking in truth. You are being walking in truth. And then you walk in the truth of who you are, then it's very simple. Where it gets complicated is when people go into even dating and they try to be somebody that they're not. Well, I like her, so I'm going to say everything that she would want me to say. or I'm going to, schmoozer, be really romantic, those lips and all that, and you're being somebody you're not. So that's the thing is you have to be walking in the truth. And then if you're walking on eggshells, that's not truth. But the other thing too, with you out even realizing it, you're walking, they're controlling and manipulating you to the way that they want you to be. Does that sound right? That doesn't sound like love to me. It doesn't sound like a soulmate to me. So that's another thing to think of. Hopefully some of this stuff will resonate with you. But this is where we're going to end today because there is so much. You need to think about your singleness first. You need to know what your needs are. You need to know what you want, intent for what you want. Do you want to just date? God forbid you want to date and just hook up the rest of your life, because that could be lonely, also dangerous with all the diseases out there. Do you want to find a soulmate? Do you want to just go out there? I'm going to marry anybody because you know what? I need to compromise because I'm never going to get anything better than this. I've seen people do that, and it's so sad. They're miserable. So you have to have intent of what you're going to go into dating about. Now, if you're married and you're having troubles, these are things that you can sit down by yourself and say, did I marry the right person? I'm not saying to go out and get a divorce, because we can talk about actually working on yourself, because there's no broken relationships. Zero. None. There's no broken relationships. There's broken people. And what happens is when you don't look at yourself and that person doesn't look at themselves and want to figure out, okay, and be aware of what's going on, and not being aware of weaknesses and strengths and weaknesses and strengths. And if you don't want to find out what that is together, that's where the relationship goes wrong. It takes work. As the elders say, it takes work. And the work is, where did I mess up? Where did I fail her or him? Where did I go short? What could I have done better or done different? Was I listening, or was I just hearing, or was I even not doing either? Was I helpful with his needs? Was I a good wife, girlfriend, whatever? Did I meet the needs that he told me he needed when we first met? These are things getting back to the basics about getting a soulmate. And this is where it goes wrong. People jump into bed, they jump into a relationship without getting to know each other. They're not a soulmate. And then what happens is they break up thinking that the relationship sucked. No, each person sucked because they didn't listen to what their needs and their values and their integrities and all that kind of stuff needed. All right? So that's where we're going to end today, because that's a lot. I need you to go and focus in on those things, write things down, and then to remember that when you're looking for, or I keep saying looking, and it's not looking, it's God ordained. So when that soulmate connection comes in, you're ready. And the other thing is that if you choose not to have a relationship, it's okay to be single. Not everybody gets into a relationship. I'm talking to the people that actually want to get into a relationship, have been in bad relationships, don't understand why they're picking bad relationships, don't understand why it's not working. A lot of it is not working because we begin to put blame elsewhere and we don't want to do our own self-awareness homework. And that is the spirit. Because if we know what our spirit really wants, I'll give you an example. I am a horse person. You cannot take horses out of me. The spirit has put that in me. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how. But I can't take that out of me. The divine likes me to like horses. I love horses. I've educated in horses. I've trained horses. I've trained people in horses. I do equipment with horses. I breathe, eat, and sleep horses. But that's just who I am. Now, do I need somebody that is in horses? No. But what do I need from that person? To accept that I like horses, and maybe I need that stability in that other person So I don't go berserk and go buy a bunch of horses, spend all this money on horses. And when I have other goals and dreams, and maybe that person has some strength in that area where they have a better standing of that, and then it combines and it comes together. When that time comes, and when God ordains a soulmate, then I will do it. But you know what? As we say, I pick bad. I pick bad. I know so many people that pick bad. It's time for God to pick them. And they should have picked them from the very, very beginning. And maybe at that point in time, I didn't need a soulmate because I didn't even know who I was. So that's it. So today, I hope you enjoyed. So we will see number 2 probably tomorrow. I seem to have a lot of time right now. For those that you know me, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it's great to see you again. Remember, like, share, and subscribe on the bottom. Come to my website, getbalance2020.com, or come to my Facebook and join as a friend. I would love to sit there and chat with you or give you inspiration or give me some inspiration. I love it. I love it. I love meeting people, and I love all over the world. I thank you for joining my Facebook. So you guys have a good night, and we will see you again in part 2 of spiritual, and we're talking about singleness and, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Singleness and help. I know what we're talking about. We're talking about soulmates. All right, love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.